When you come from a high place of care, you are thinking about the other person. You are also, if you're in a group setting, thinking about the other people in the room. And then candid being, I'm just giving you the facts. So I had to be radically candid a lot this week with different team members. And there was a few moments where, I'm not gonna lie, I'm an emotional person. Tears came to my eyes, didn't cry, kept them down, but it's like you have to go somewhere which feels a little bit uncomfortable.
Totally, yeah.
But I said it out of love. I'm not saying it as a malicious thing. This is truly a thing I want to say to you so that I can see you improve.
Here's 4 ways to protect your organization's culture.
Welcome to the Marketing Mentors podcast, brought to you by Red Pandas Digital. I'm Tasha, and of course joined by the one and only lovely Linda.
Hey T.
And if you didn't pick up what Linda just put down, yes, we're talking about 4 ways today you can protect your company's culture. We've talked about culture before. We've spoken a lot about Red Pandas culture, and we're coming towards the end of the year. And there's a lot of things happening. The business has changed in the years that we've worked with each other here. Our culture's shifting and changing. And I think this is stemming from a place of, we've had a couple of team member turnovers in the recent months. And there's one thing that is just evident is that we will do whatever it takes to protect that culture. And I say we because we are a team. I'm not talking about myself alone or just leadership team. I'm talking about everyone that we work with, that we come in contact with, that we talk to. We will protect that culture, thick and thin.
Yeah. And you said it right at the beginning, T, culture now looks a little bit different to what it used to. And we have to think about different things. We went from a team of 4, us, Mob, Soph, and then now we've got this big team and we're expanding.
Yep.
And what that's going to mean is there's going to be movement. There are going to be people that mold and fit and suit the culture and are part of that culture and embed those things. And there are going to be people, embody those things rather. And then, there are going to be people that just don't fit in within that.
Yeah.
Now that we're scaling up and we're growing, we're going to really start to see that. But culture itself,
100%.
like what we think of culture, it needs to shift now.
Yeah.
I guess.
And Moby always says, it's like a garden, right? You have to water the garden. You have to fertilize it. You have to pull out the weeds, replant certain plants. So I think it's a really nice metaphor for some of the things we can talk about. 4 key things. And we're actually not going to go really deep into our own culture here, but these 4 things that you can do to protect the culture you've cultivated in your workspace.
Yeah.
Because it could look very different to ours. It could look very different. But the key thing is that you need to cultivate the culture.
Yeah.
You need to work on it. You need to water that garden and just be cognizant and aware that, it needs work. You don't just put some values up on the wall and be like, yep, that's us. It just doesn't work.
And I can see how it would be very easy for larger companies to get to that point because it requires so much work from every single person. And like you said, you have to keep focusing on it and keep watering that garden.
Yeah.
So I can see how bigger companies, to be honest, get to a point once they get through that scale up and they become this large company where, culture just ends up being morals and values on a wall.
Yeah.
But we really are conscious of staying away from that.
Yeah.
And so these things that we talk about today, these are things that we do work on within the company, but they are 4 fundamental things that you should be thinking about no matter the size of your company, because as soon as you start to let this stuff go, your culture will start to be let go as well.
That's
really.
It. Yeah.
And we've seen that.
We've seen that as well. Linda.
Yeah.
We've experienced it. We're experiencing it. We're not perfect. The reason why we can talk about these things is because we've made mistakes here before, or we've realized things, or we've seen mistakes happening and then been able to kind of learn new ways.
Yeah.
So with that said, the first one that we want to talk about is transparency.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fun word, transparency.
So in what way, T? Because that word is so broad, hey? Transparency. So are we talking transparency from top down, like bottom up? Like, what are we talking about here? Transparent about what?
Yeah, I think pretty much everything.
Right.
Except for there might be some key business decisions or things that are happening that if you share with the team, I'm talking about leaders here, that if you share with the team, it's just going to cause more stress for them than anything. Then as a leader, I think you have a responsibility to maybe hold a few things closer to your chest until you feel like you can protect your team as a leader the way you need to, right? But in terms of transparency, financial transparency, it's been just over a year now that Red Pandas has been pretty much fully transparent with all of our financial goals, our profits, our losses.
And this is with everybody in the team.
Everyone in the team.
We have our Monday call.
Yep.
In that call, I think it's once a month.
Yep.
Soph will share the financials with us.
She will, yes.
Yeah.
Soph will share. Yes.
The tongue twister.
Linda's a bit tongue-tied today. But with that said, yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah.
Once a month, we have a financial update from Soph's side of the business where she shares, the incomings, the outgoings, and where the business is at, like working towards some financial goals. Because ultimately, that transparency around finances has just really helped with the business and everyone in the business knowing where we're going.
Yeah.
We're working towards some of these financial goals together. When we see some more money in the pot type of thing, we know that we can go do more outings, ask for promotions, whatever it might be. So transparency around the numbers has been really, really cool. Yeah. There's also been just transparency with the team about, certain team members maybe that aren't quite working out, and that we have to we're going to talk about this one as point 3, but we have to make some quick decisions. I'm reading Leaders Eat Last, and Simon Sinek talks about this circle of safety, and leaders need to have a circle of safety with each other to be transparent with each other, because ultimately, Linda, we have to go off to our teams and make sure that we feel safe in the decisions that we're making or we're saying and bringing to them, because we have a obligation to them to lead them and be transparent. So we have to have that synergy there, and then that kind of filters down to the rest of our team, right? Because our team are the ones doing the work. Yeah. So transparency comes, I think, across the board.
Yeah, I think there's this one chapter from Story Brand by Donald Miller, and most of the chapters in that book, like 90% of them, they talk about, making the customer the hero of the story. But there's one chapter that focuses on the business, which I thought was really, really interesting, and I really liked it because I felt it resonated with me, because we do that here. And so it's kind of like we're talking about that transparency of communicating the company's goals and the strategies, and it's more about the why and communicating that why to everyone. Yeah. Everyone will understand the what, but if everybody in the team can understand the why and they can understand the company's direction and feel like they're part of that why, that transparency helps with that. Yeah. It's the main thing there. That will allow people as well in the team to feel like they're a part of something 100%. At the same time. It's one of that helps with your culture, because it doesn't make people feel left out or not feel guided by what the work is that they're doing as well.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. It's getting understanding people's what's the word I'm looking for? Intentions. Yeah. So if you see the intentions and you can agree with them and come to those together, because there's a good chance if you lead with transparency, your team are going to feel the same way. They're going to know something is up before you even, say it. Like this whole closed door, meetings, they're not on, right? They're just not on. Like I said before, though, there can be things that need to be kept to the CEO's chest very closely, because let's be honest, Linda, you and I haven't been in CEO positions. So I know there's decisions that CEOs would have to make that are big decisions. And, there's a whole other podcast episode in decision making. Yeah. But, and they've got to make decisions for the business that they have to be able to, convey to leadership, be transparent about it, but also be so cognizant of how it's going to be perceived. Yeah. Because we've got to then go off and, roll that out. So it's an interesting thing, transparency. I think if you feel like, if you're not sure, if you're thinking, are we transparent? How do I feel? If something feels a little bit uncomfortable to share it, like if you don't think you're a transparent person, the next time you want to share something, if it feels a little bit uncomfortable, then you're probably scratching the surface of being transparent. Yeah. Like you've got to step out of your comfort zone. If you're not a transparent person, you don't think you are by trade or by default, then it's going to feel a little bit uncomfortable to start off with. Yeah, I like that. I think it comes into nicely, feeds into our second point quite nicely. And this is in the words of, I think it's Jim Collins from one of his books, I can't remember which one, but confront the brutal facts. Right. So I translate that, or I, interpret that, to be you have to be radically candid with your team. Yeah. And it goes two ways. So it's kind of like psych safety, radical candor, and it goes two ways. So if you're going to be candid with someone, you have to expect that they're going to be candid back to you. Radical candor, as we know, we want to work towards being in that top quadrant.
This is another part though.
Yeah.
Can I say, with confront the brutal facts,
Mm-hmm.
right? There is a way to do this that is still like within our cultural standards.
Yep.
So
Yes.
it's really important how this is done, because being brutal and confronting that head on, having those direct conversations, we really encourage here at Red Pandas.
100%.
But there is also a way to do it
Where it's not brutal.
delivered in a way, maybe where it's less brutal.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about brutal facts here,
Yeah.
but delivery is another thing.
Yes.
And that's also something that we will protect here always. You know, how
Always.
does someone feel in the room when they're getting feedback from someone? You know, we're conscious of when to do it, how to do it, depending on the type of feedback.
Yeah.
So although we are and we try to be really, really direct,
we're thinking about the other person.
yeah,
being
we are always
empathetic.
trying to think of the other person.
And then as you grow into this leadership role, we're not just thinking about the other person, we're thinking about the other people in the room as well.
Yeah.
Because if someone feels a certain way, there's a good chance other people feel a certain way.
And this can be really, really innocently done as well. That's the thing. You know, I've seen other team members as well, you know, not know in that moment whether they are being direct in a good way or whether it's not the right space. So we internally have those conversations with our team, which is really, really nice. You know, we're all thinking about, okay, I'm actually not sure about whether it's the right thing to say in this room. Is it or isn't it?
Yeah.
And those conversations are quite nice. And I think that they tie into us protecting our culture, because now our teams as well are thinking about those things before they say them in a group setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point, Linda.
Mm.
And I think that's where, like, if I can come back to like radical candor ties in, because we want to work towards being in that. If you think of the quadrant, the top right quadrant, which was what is it? Radically candid.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Radically candid. I'm like ruinously
The name of the
empathetic.
book, yeah.
Radically candid. We are coming from a really high place of care.
Yeah.
When you come from a high place of care, you are thinking about the other person.
Yeah.
You are also, if you're in a group setting, thinking about the other people in the room. And then candid being, I'm just giving you the facts.
Yeah.
So I had to be radically candid a lot this week with different team members. And there was a few moments where, like, I'm not going to lie, I'm an emotional person. Tears came to my eyes.
Yeah.
Didn't cry, kept them down. But it's like, you got to go, for an emotional person, you have to go somewhere which feels a little bit uncomfortable.
Totally. Yeah.
But I said it out of love. I'm not saying it as a malicious thing.
Yeah.
This is truly a thing I want to say to you so that I can see you improve.
I think a lot of people will avoid that because they don't want to have to dig there when they've got their own shit going on. You know, it's hard work. Like it takes that empathy and that care for others to put yourself in a position to have that conversation when you've got so many other things going on. I was having a conversation with like a junior up and comer recently, not in our company, different company, friend, and he was telling me how there was one person that he was working for who's just a great person, but he'd never want to work for him again because he didn't lead with care. And this person at the time was dealing with some family issues. His mum was going through some like medical issues, and that person just had no care for him as a person. And, you know, he's working for someone else within that company and absolutely loves it because there's that care factor. But you have to go outside of your responsibilities in a way. Depends how you see your role, but you should be seeing that within your role, that care for others, protecting the culture in that way.
That's what I think, in my opinion, I think that's what leadership is.
Yeah.
Like more, like, yes, that's what a good communicator is.
That differentiates a leader from a manager. I know we're like, kind of
chopping it down.
Yeah.
All great episodes do. Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree. And I'm seeing it. The more I'm also like, I'm working on myself. We talked about this last episode. Go to work harder on yourself than you do anything else. The more I'm working on myself, the more I'm realizing that to be a good leader, to be a good worker even, I have to be empathetic, like probably above anything else.
Yeah.
Stop thinking about myself. In a way, you are being empathetic. You're being selfish because you're telling yourself not to think about yourself, but think about the others. But the more you think about others, and we say assume positive intent or show respect to someone else's opinions, whatever it is how you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Because, like, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong when you're thinking about other people.
Yeah.
If everyone in the world just thought a little bit more about other people than themselves, it'd be a better place to live
Oh,
in.
I love that.
Do you know what I
That's
mean?
That's really nice.
It really would.
Yeah.
So confronting the brutal facts, like Linda said, like there is a way to be candid and share facts with someone. What we do here to protect the culture of some of the values we're going to talk about in a little bit is we encourage radical candor, but we also teach and encourage how to share that radical candor.
Yeah.
There's times and places for certain things.
Yeah.
Some people have to go through certain things to learn it. We have to go through certain things to realize what's going on. But yeah, no, it's definitely one that's on that list.
Yeah.
I like this one. I say it a lot. I think I've said it. We're going to go on to number 3.
Yeah.
I've said it a lot, I think, in quite a few episodes.
Yeah.
Hire slow and fire fast.
Yeah, I love this one. I think Gary Vee started that.
Yeah, it's very, very, very important. We've all worked somewhere that someone took too long to fire someone. Yeah. I think a couple of years ago we had this situation.
Yeah.
And we just took too long to fire someone for many, many reasons. Yeah. And like, what did that do to our culture in that time, Linda?
Yeah.
You know?
It's so detrimental to your culture above everything else. When you take a really long time to make a decision like that toxic nature potentially of that person, it drains it from everybody else. It's the most detrimental thing, because then you have other colleagues, and I was there as well. You know, why am I working alongside someone who's not performing? You know, is this where I see myself? You know, you hold yourself to a certain standard. You see yourself as trying to be the best in your industry, but yet you're around people that aren't performing in that way.
Or they've got half a foot out the door. Yeah. And they're just not giving the 100% that you are, and it is draining. 100% is draining.
Yeah.
It's like going to the gym and you're training like in a group training setting, and you got someone next to you that's only giving, you can tell they're only giving like 20, 30, 40%.
So true. Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to be near you.
Yeah.
I want to work hard. And if you've got someone next to you going 100%, you're probably going to go 100%. Yeah. One of the girls that I train with 5 days a week, she's probably next to me, one of the hardest girls to train next to. Yeah. And I know that if she's in the room when I walk in of a morning, we're going to have a hard session. Yeah, because we just go next to each other and we just naturally push each other. And that's a culture. That's a culture right there. Yeah. So when you've got someone that has got half a foot out the door, or their mind somewhere else, or they're quote unquote checked out, and you've got to sit next to them, and you've got to go to the same meetings as them, and you've got to vibe with them. Like, you're going to vibe all of that. Yeah. That's
such a killer.
That's why you fire fast. Yeah. Right? It's just, that's why you fire fast. Yeah. Hiring slow, also really important. Yeah. Because we're looking for not just a skills fit, a cultural fit. The skills fit is important. Like, there's different processes someone's got to go through. Interview 1, interview 2, role play, interview 3, come and meet them, do a little test of some sort, reference. Like, you can't miss those steps. Yeah. Because when you do, you end up with the wrong people in the wrong seat.
Yeah. And we've learned that the hard way, but we've learned that lesson, and now we understand the importance of every single stage in that process. Yeah. Sometimes you do want to take a shortcut because you have a really good feeling, but it's so important not to take a shortcut with those things, because you're going to feel it later. Yeah. It's so important to just take the time, hire slow, make sure that you're hiring the right person. They're what you need, like you said, from a skills point of view, from a cultural point of view, which can be harder, like culture, to know if someone fits in. There are obviously questions that you can ask someone, but it's also a time thing, which is why those face-to-face sessions are so important, because you can get to know someone in that way and really understand, culture. Yeah. Like, we're going to talk about this, but, culture isn't something that you can just push onto someone. They have to embody those values themselves. Yeah. You can't teach someone culture. You can't teach someone values. They either come to the table with that mindset or they don't.
You're spot on.
Yeah. Yeah. And so time in the interview process is what's going to allow you questions, leading with curiosity is what's going to allow you to see if someone fits the culture.
That's it. And I can't remember the top 5 of my head that Linda has for the free 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
There's these free 5 things that everyone can do in, like, and you look them up in their interviewing process. And if you take your time hiring, these free 5 will speak a lot to who the people that you're looking at. And if they can do these free 5 consistently, like, there's a good chance that they're already starting to be closer to your cultural fit. Yeah. Like, Linda raises a huge impact here when she shared this with us And it's like, oh, why didn't we pick up this? It's just so simple.
Yeah.
Do you have the free 5?
Yeah. I love how we're calling it the free 5.
Yeah, we're taking that.
That's mad.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
that's really cool. So yeah, I was talking with my partner and we're talking about these things like what makes a great candidate great that doesn't have any experience but can do certain things to really show that they are putting their best foot forward. So it's looking out for their work ethic, what their work ethic looks like, their attitude, punctuation, showing up early, not on time, early every single time, preparation.
Yes.
So you can see what they've got, what time they've personally invested into the interview prior to the interview happening.
Yep.
And then presentation, how they show up. You know, it's important to see how they're dressed, you know, have they brushed their hair? Like it becomes less important.
I don't need to brush my hair right now. It's too short.
You're not in an interview right now.
Do you have an interview?
You're just in a podcast.
I wouldn't know how to. I'm listening to this for myself when I'm ready to go for an interview.
Oh, okay. Is that right?
Yeah. No, honestly, the punctuation one gets me because it's like before COVID when you had to go to places to do interviews.
Yeah.
You would show up 15 minutes early.
Yeah.
There's no way you wouldn't be on time, like as in 15 minutes early.
Yeah.
And now we do these like Zoom interviews and people like you can tell when someone goes into the meeting room, you get notified.
Yeah.
So if someone's not in there.
I love to see that.
At least 5 minutes. I think Zoom is you can be a bit more lenient with the time, right?
Yeah.
15 minutes sitting in a Zoom call, right? What are you doing? 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 5 minutes sooner, you're spot on. And Linda's spot on. The free 5, if they're not doing that, in the slow hiring process, that's probably an immediate red flag. Like, you can't even do those free 5, then bugger off.
Yeah.
We'll move on to someone who can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you shouldn't
compromise.
You shouldn't compromise on those things because they're things that people can do to show up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that speaks to that person's values.
Yeah.
Which is a really nice segue into our fourth and final tip for protecting the culture at your organization. And that is, it's really like you can be transparent, you can be brutally honest, you can hire slow, fire fast, but none of that is like useful if you've got shit values. So it really comes back to the company's values.
Yeah.
So for the last 6 years, Red Pandas has had, I think, 7 values. We've rattled them off before, I believe, psych safety, autonomy or ownership, something like that. We've got psych safe. I already said psych safe. Yeah. Good vibes. We've got good vibes.
Yep.
Treat
what
the
else
business
we got?
like it's your own business.
We changed that one recently.
Embrace the pace. Embrace the pace.
Love of learning. Embrace the pace. Our people are our profit. Good vibes only. Psych safety. The authentic approach.
Beautiful. Okay, so those have been our values for the last at least 6 years. They were printed, put on walls. We embraced them. Everyone knew them. We spoke about them. And it was always, whenever we did something, we kind of tied it back to values. Does this make sense? Are we being true to our values? Probably in the last 3-4 months or so, the world's changed a lot. The business has changed a lot. The team has changed a lot. We're changing. And we're just noticing some of those values need to change as well.
Yeah.
So we are actually planning before the end of the year. This is being recorded in November, so hopefully we'll get it done in the next 4 weeks.
We have to now.
Putting it out there, we're going to sit down as a team, as a whole team, and rehash those values together. Because the values aren't mine, Moby's and Sophie's and Linda's only, right? It has to include everyone. And for a long time, one of the values for a long time was treat the business like it's your own.
Yeah.
And then we swapped that one out for embrace the pace.
Yeah.
That was around the time the merger started to happen.
Yeah.
And I think, there's some things that need
and for full transparency as well, the reason why we swapped that out is because we now have this coaching model and we firmly believe that businesses get the best results when they take it in-house.
Yep.
So we encourage that. We want them to own their marketing and sales in-house. Yeah. So
and
it changed.
To Linda's point, she said earlier, you can be transparent. Was it true? No, it was radical candor. So being the brutal facts and being radically candid, like you can do all of that type of stuff. But if someone fundamentally doesn't have the same values as you, you're probably going to keep butting heads. Yeah. And that's where you see a cultural misalignment.
And it has to be internal.
Internal values.
You know, like
as a human being.
They can maybe not come to the party in that way, but if they're willing to learn and do their own work for them, then sure.
Yep.
But it has to be internal. And I wouldn't typically recommend that it's your responsibility to go teach them that. They have to be on that their own journey.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I totally agree. If you would, it's a dance, right? It's a mutual dance. It's like being in a relationship. When you meet someone and you want to spend the rest of your life with them, you typically talk about things like religion, sex, politics, food choices, where you want to live.
God,
goals.
we never talk politics, I must say.
Yeah, I try not to because we tend to disagree on certain things. So that's where I say to my husband, let's leave this one for later.
Yeah.
Because it's okay. I feel like you can have differing opinions with your partner as long as you can meet in a happy middle and still just have a happy life. So I feel like we're doing that. But let's not go there. Like when you're in a committed relationship with someone or something, there has to be, Moby says, a bilateral transfer of value.
Yeah.
Right? There has to be alignment and shared values. I couldn't be with Sean if he, valued traveling and experiences over building a family and a house.
Yeah.
Here it's like very simple, right?
Yeah.
These are things that we share and we're working towards together. And it just wouldn't work if it was the other way around.
Yeah.
So, and there's some values I think you can be, you have to be really strict on. Moby and his family are Muslim. That's a value that's not going anywhere, right? Sean and I aren't religious, so we don't have that strictness around those things. Yeah. So it's, what are your values? What's anchoring you to the thing that's keeping you together?
Yeah,
it's the
I love
same
that.
thing in a business. What are your values? Like Linda said, internally, what are your values? And what's anchoring you to the business that you're working at? Because in all honesty, Linda, I think I've seen one other business in the last 3 years that have similar values to Red Pandas that I would be happy to work at.
Yeah.
Because I've got strong opinions now on the values that I want for a business that I work in.
Yep, different standards now.
Yeah, it is.
I really love that, T, how you're saying anchoring your own values to the business and seeing if that matches. I really, really like that.
But it's funny how,
said.
you look at our leader of our business and who he is, fundamentally, there's things that we are so similar on, things we are so different on. But that hasn't caused any tension in the time we've worked with each other, ever.
Yeah.
Because we're ultimately here with shared, we still, Islamic, non-religion, we still share a value of whatever that might be.
Yeah.
I can't give words to it right now. It's 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. But we have connected and we're working towards a goal and we bring that into
you have a
our
shared
work.
vision, yeah.
And I think ultimately it comes back to your values. And you can't, if you're a startup and you're sitting down by yourself or you're with just your one other team member, do the values exercise. I don't even know what a values exercise look like. I'm sure you can Google search
There
something.
are so many online, yeah.
And sit down and figure out what, maybe you've got between 5 and 7 values that you guys want to work on. And then I would have it in the calendar for maybe every year, 2 years. Just look at them, reassess them. Are they right? Are they still in line? Does it still feel good?
We're going to be doing a session soon at Red Pandas where we're going to be sitting down like T mentioned and we're going to be talking about our values and reshaping what they are. Perhaps it might be worth in another session coming up that we share how we did that and the outcome of that.
And then the outcome, what our new values are.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what they become.
Yeah.
It's going to be completely different. Well, the team's changed a lot, Linda, since
it has.
It was just the 4 of us in a tiny little co-working space.
Yeah.
So
there's going to be some different stuff, but I'm so open for it.
Yeah,
Let's see how it goes.
And it all comes back to working on yourself. The more you work on you, and you learn to be empathetic and curious and not critical, you get a new appreciation for stuff. You're just kind of cool. I'll let stuff happen and see where it goes. You never know what your team have to share with you.
So true.
Well, Linda, such a pleasure as always.
Likewise.
I'll speak to you next time.
See you guys. Bye.